Good morning. It's 8 o'clock on the start of your Wednesday. Glad you're with us.
One of those days where nothing is working, and
I've had it.
You're putting your best foot forward. You're doing everything you can. You came in with a smile, a good attitude, even though it's only Wednesday, and still nothing's working. We're trying our best.
All I want to do is something so simple, and it's like the computer gods are just operating against you. It is the most frustrating thing in the entire world. Do you ever have that in your office where you do the same thing every single day, and then all of a sudden it just doesn't let you do that same thing that you do every single day? Like, why? Why is today different than any other day?
No idea. Well, good morning to you, and thanks for being here with us while we vent and rant to you.
This is like therapy for us.
Happy that you're here. I can't even pull up any of the comments or anything. So,
well, all right. Good morning, everyone. Yes, exactly. It is my least favorite day of the week. 100%. Oh, hello, a new face. We appreciate you, Linda. Chad, I don't know that we've ever heard from you, Chad, but glad you're with us. We see you and hear you today. Yes,
yay.
And what a miracle it is.
To be seen and to be heard.
What a miracle it is.
Grateful.
MB, thank you. The one I would love, 100%. There is nothing like a Wednesday where you just don't have to work, because you got like Monday and Tuesday, okay, but then you're off Wednesday.
You can split the week up.
And then you're like, okay, Thursday and Friday, I'm here. I can do this.
Not too bad. My dad's there this morning. He's here.
Mr. Epps,
yep.
We see you. Glad you're with us as well. Maybe you need a restart, Taylor.
I must. I can't do anything, but everything else is working.
So annoying.
I'm just gonna start.
Can we talk briefly about how tomorrow is going to suck if you are driving this time of day? Really quick, just want to again drive that point home that while it's cold out there right now, tomorrow going to be super, super icy.
We can't overstate it. It's going to be one of those mornings where you step outside and you're like, ugh, okay, this really sucks. So we're talking like freezing rain. The roads are going to be slick. It's obviously really cold today. There's already ice on the ground, so it's just going to be adding on top of that. It's going to be this time of the day tomorrow that you're going to need to take a lot of extra time because it's going to be slick and slippery.
Okay, so not that I want to stoke the flames here, but maybe we talk about potholes this morning.
I think we sure should.
Because there are a lot of them, not only in the city of Buffalo, but beyond as well. We were hearing from some folks this morning when we were chatting at 5:15 rather, about where some of those potholes are. You noticed Main Street.
Noticed.
Right, you're dealing with Main Street.
I was a victim.
One of the things I think is really bad, one of the places I think is really bad, is Grant Street right behind Buff State.
Yeah.
There are so many people who are traveling that area to get onto the 198 or leaving the school. And there are so many little like bumps and bruises all around, kind of similar to this, but also on the side of the road. So people are swerving to avoid those potholes, which only makes matters worse, potentially causing a crash.
Yeah, that was my experience on Main Street yesterday. So we track the prices for you of eggs, and everyone has them mostly online, but in Aldi, you have to go to the store. So I live not too far from Aldi. I'm like, well, I'll just go down Main Street and check out Aldi. Oh my gosh, I had to say my prayers to Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through. The cars in the right lane are like swerving and gonna crash into me, and I'm going into the left lane because every few feet, pothole, pothole, pothole. And then there's just a stretch of them at this point. I don't even know how you begin to start fixing it. The whole street just needs to be redone.
So I want to share some of your voices here. Elizabeth says Seneca Street is crazy. Anita says Main and Winspear had a really bad one. The kind that make the big metal clunk. It was fixed on Monday, though. Marguerite says Buffalo potholes are crazy.
The 198 itself has a really big one.
Yeah. Connie says I always see Lockport has some bad ones, too. And then Niagara Falls, Crystal says, is really bad. Elizabeth, drive around South Buffalo. Really bad this time of year.
So the Department of Public Works for the city, working on it. Of course, they are weather dependent. They can't really be out there if it's still snowing and icy. So a day like tomorrow, they're probably not going to be able to be out there fixing potholes. But if you do call into 311, they're supposed to get to those potholes within 48 hours.
So interesting. James says, I'm wondering if all those potholes are because of the plows. I think a lot of it is because of the freeze thaw that we've had too. Like it's been warm, it's been super cold, it's been snowy, it's been melty. It's just been gross. It's rained a couple of days. Though Howard says potholes are nothing new. We get them every year, hear about it every year. It never changes. Violet, though, good morning to you, Violet Parrish. I don't know that we've ever heard from you. So glad that you've joined us this morning. I suggest to quit complaining about the roads and the potholes and get their construction and start filling those holes instead of listening to more BS. Do something about it, she says. If you know something about it, quit talking about it. So what is it exactly that you think should be done, Miss Violet? Are you talking about the city crews doing something, or are you talking about others
Like
doing something about
politicians
it?
Well, I think it needs to get done regardless.
Between the speed bumps and the potholes, it's slow going up and down. And then MB commented here also saying that Millersport is terrible. They actually filled some in the one lane already, but it won't last, so heavily traveled. And so these temporary caps that they're putting in, I think somebody, wasn't Aaron mentioning it yesterday, or somebody else maybe it was Nate Martin when we were talking to him yesterday, mentioned how they kind of pop out when the roads continue to flex and tighten.
So you have that moment, right? You hit the pothole, and I think Anita mentioned it. It's like clunk sound. Sometimes you see them coming, you try to swerve, but sometimes you just can't avoid them. Like that moment after is just probably the worst part of any day. I like turn the radio down, turn my music down,
Right.
and I just like sit there and I'm like, ooh.
Barb says there's one by Tops on Elmwood in the street at the curb that almost took out her radiator. Howard says, honestly, there's not much one you can do when it's so cold outside. They cannot get the hot patch to stay before the hole is filtered. Fair. And right, Diane, it's too cold. It won't hold. Kim saying there are potholes in Derby right now in the right lane in front of the Ace Hardware store along Route 5. Then in Hamburg, the right lane on Route 5. Linda kind of weighing in saying the same thing on Versailles Plank Road in Evans.
Everywhere.
And for those of you who are watching outside of Western New York, it is Versailles. It's not Versailles. I don't want you to think that I'm a total moron.
That goes. Anita goes, you just pray you don't get a flat. Because
Yeah.
it could be so much money. We were talking about this morning.
Yes, I was just going to mention.
$400 is the average cost for repairs if you do smack a pothole.
Isn't that kind of crazy? I mean, the thing about it that years ago they were paying for damage in certain places because, you know, the state was just kind of like, oh, yep. Wow.
Dan's been a victim.
How do you like that? I didn't know that. Where? And was this in the Geo Prism, or was this in another car? I don't remember, but I'm sure. Yeah, we were driving that. You're welcome, Linda. See, I know Buffalo, I know Western New York.
People. Yeah, I feel anytime you have to go and get car maintenance, I just assume that I'm going to be in the whole $300 at least. So I don't know. They always find some kind of extra problem. They're like, oh, you need a vent, something.
Right.
But if you genuinely do have a problem, a tire or something, you just gotta be ready to shell out.
The city does have that 48-hour guarantee. So if you are filing a complaint with 311, you see a pothole, you think it needs to be fixed, pick up the phone, dial 311 really quick. A call taker will take that from you. The city has a 48-hour guarantee to get that pothole filled. It also helps that it is your street, Lauren, 100%. And I love you for watching. Thank you so much. You're the best. When you hit a crater, Tracy says, oh my God, sometimes unavoidable. I know. Johnny, my boy Marrero, just put in the comments a link to our story on WKBW.com, right where you can file that complaint with
Jim,
311.
She updated you. This was before you.
Oh, BE? Yeah, understood. I was like, yeah, I didn't know what she's talking about. Kelsey, good morning. Hope you're feeling better, and hope all the kids and your husband are feeling better too. Between dodging potholes and passing snacks to the kids, it must look like I'm drunk driving.
Swerving, you're going left and right. You just got to do what you got to do to get to your location, your destination at this point, which is sometimes easier said than done this time of year.
Jeanette, I'm cracking up. I'm not the only one who ruined a Geo Prism in a pothole years ago.
I've heard of a Geo Prism.
Really?
What is that? I didn't even know
It's
that
a
was
Chevy car. It's a it was a brand, and the Prism was the kind of car, the make and model. Yeah, it was one of I don't even know if they make them anymore. But one of my neighbors has one still.
I'm gonna Google it.
In like Robin's Egg Blue. It's so funny.
Geo
Driving down Clinton, Sherry says, huge hole, had to be 8 inches deep. I immediately slowed down to a crawl, and the truck behind me got mad. He quickly passed me, then ended up hitting one further up. She's calling it karma. That's funny.
Oh, that is the worst feeling.
Elizabeth, yes, she's always said it looks like we're drunk driving, trying to avoid the big potholes. I know, like, and that's just Buffalo. That's
This is
just
what we have to do.
right.
What you can tell the difference, right? Like I know when someone's swerving, I'm like, oh, there's a pothole over there.
Right.
Can see it. I know that one.
You know
I'll give-
why they're
I'll give you a
swerving.
little bit of space on this side because I know you got to try to.
So
make it.
funny. Okay, can we briefly? I want to wade into the waters here and see what you think about this,
do
because
it.
this is actually newsy, and I think that it's important to kind of hear your voice on this. Yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, met with Donald Trump in the White House, in the Oval Office, and then they held a news conference afterward. And what we learned from President Trump is that he wants to basically, for lack of a better term, take over Gaza
Right.
and have the people who live in Gaza move out to Egypt and Jordan.
Right.
An interesting conversation, an interesting thought, making this announcement no less while he's standing next to Benjamin Netanyahu. So I'm interested what you think about this idea of a U.S. I don't want to say invasion, takeover. Those are the wrong words to
It
use.
just seems like takeover doesn't feel like out of the far from the truth. He said they would start to run
Right.
things, and we as a country would kind of take over, and the goal would be to try to give Palestinians somewhere to go and kind of set things up for them.
Felice says, I can't comment on anything political because for some reason people come at me all the time.
Protecting her peace.
So Zeke wondering why. And, he's saying he called Gaza at this point a hellhole. Why would they want to go back there? He said, they've been through hell. They've been, there's all the buildings are knocked down. He basically said that we could make it something beautiful while giving these Palestinians someplace to go. Mark says, MB, good morning. Where does he come up with these ideas? He's not running the world. Mark, I won't say what I'm thinking, but Tracy says it. Please, he's ridiculous.
Anita's saying, is he stoned? let's fix our country instead. But I mean, when you think about, it's been, a couple weeks. We talked about, and we use this animation, the first 100 days in office.
Right.
And that's when presidents try to do a lot. You'll see so much that comes out in these first 100 days. But, I feel like we've just been in spin cycle of, tariffs and now Gaza and Canada, all of this stuff. It's hard to keep up with. It's hard to pay attention to all of it and get it all in. But this is just kind of the latest thing here. And I don't know what will happen. Will it happen?
Diane, interesting thought. The U.S. needs to be taken care of first. So many homeless people, vets, our own issues. Mary calls it embarrassing, Marianne. Zeke says, really, why? What does when I can't even, I don't even, I apologize, Zeke. Maybe you can rephrase.
I know what you meant there.
My mom weighing in here, like I said, he makes these statements and stands back and watches the chaos that ensues. Though Howard agrees with you, Diane. Anita says this is egotistic and narcissistic. I just wanted to wade into the waters.
Well, we can hear too. We have some of a soundbite John can play for
Oh,
us. So
perfect.
let's listen to what the president said.
Hellhole right now. It was before the bombing started, frankly. And we're going to give people a chance to live in a beautiful community that's safe and secure. And I think you're going to see a tremendous outflowing of support. A lot of people like to pretend it didn't happen.
Though we should point out that the adversaries and allies alike are coming out saying, not a good idea. This is not smart. Right. And this is kind of interesting from Kelly. We talk to Kelly every morning, and Kelly, we're glad you're with us as always. Wants the illegals out of America, but wants Egypt and Jordan to take on immigrants. She's calling this hypocritical.
This Gaza, the conflict, the war that's been happening there has so much history to it. And there's so much to talk about when you dive into this. And now there's the ceasefire going on, and there's next steps towards that, to moving that forward. It's so, you can't just fix it, right? There's no one fix. There's no one solution. Who knows exactly how it will go? But it will be interesting to see if the U.S. plays a bigger role in that, because in history, we've kind of played a facilitator, kind of
the moderator, right? The mediator.
But if we go there and start taking over, as Trump says, then, it'll be interesting to see.
Barbara says, came across to me that rather than brokering Middle East peace and ensuring the release of hostages, he's thinking about attempting to put a golden tee on a resort for himself. Vicky says, Gaza in trouble. Donald Trump, Elon Musk is in his ear. Okay.
That's a good question. Does the president have power to do this, or does Congress need to vote on
that
this?
was a great question. And, Kelly O'Donnell who is a longtime White House correspondent for NBC News, asked that question yesterday. Can you do this? And he didn't answer the question. So I'm sure that at some point, Congress will have to step in and say, hold the phone.
That's the checks and balances of it all.
Right.
The president can say and do a lot of things, but oftentimes immediately after, other people chime in and shut things down or make changes.
Well, and let's face it, this is not the first time he's made a claim like that or put out an idea like that, for instance. You know, he talked about Greenland. He talked about Canada becoming a state. You know, like there are so many layers to this that I think it's just one in a succession of ideas. But, you know, he put it out there nonetheless, and now everyone's jumping on it, right? Because it's of what's going on over there. You see all of these people trying to get back to their homes and trying to make heads or tails of what's left. You know, and I understand what he's saying in that why would they want to go back there? But the reality is this is home for a lot of people.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Palestinians have always wanted their own space and their own state.
Well, and that's the history here, right? I mean, like, that's why there's war.
Right.
You know, they are in the Gaza Strip, and, you know, that's that endless fighting that ensues between Israel and the Palestinians.
It's been going on for decades.
Right, exactly.
I just I feel as though, you know, I don't want us to get all swept up in it. It's important we talk about it, but what else is going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like tomorrow we're talking about another thing. There's so much going on here. Sometimes it's hard to keep track.
Marky says, this is what Israel always wanted. We aren't going to take over it. We will occupy it. Elizabeth says 90% of what he says he's going to do, he can't do without approval from Congress. She says he's dumb. Robin says, with the state of the world, I don't think the United States needs his shock statements. Philly's calling it mentally exhausting.
That's what I'm saying. I think people get fed up with politics, and sometimes that stinks because people are like, oh, I don't watch the news, or I don't want to chime into this or that. And it's important, I think, that we talk about these things and we understand what's going on. But it's also true that it can be exhausting. And
time will tell, really. I mean, obviously, the U.S. and Israel are very close in alliances. And, you know, somebody does something to Israel, typically the U.S. steps in. But here we are brokering this peace deal, this ceasefire, and, you know, you don't want to stoke any flames here when we're, you know, kind of walking on the edge of fragility.
It seems like things were moving towards peace.
Right.
And now we're using words like take over.
Yeah.
So you wonder what will happen next.
Okay. So let's also talk about something else that's super controversial, because I am in a controversial mood today. School start times in Williamsville seem to be putting people over the edge as well, because here we are. We want to move the high school start time later. We want to move up elementary school. So we heard from one student, a junior at one of the Williamsville high schools, who said essentially this virtual meeting that happened last night, you see Dr. Darren Brown Hall on the top right, the superintendent, along with other leaders in education from across the country. She's saying that this meeting in particular lacked student advocacy and student voices.
So they did bring in people from around the country who have done this. They brought in like superintendents from places like Monroe County near Rochester, and then, you know, other places that have done this to say, you know, it's worked for us. They said that grades didn't really change, but more kids were able to show up on time and more kids were showing up to school in general. And that's the goal, is to help kids get more sleep and perform better and do all these things. That's what they want. But the students are saying, well, we got jobs.
Right.
We have to pick up our siblings, and we have things to do. We have extracurriculars we want to attend. If they don't get out, which the proposal is to get them out of school at 3:40, if they don't get out till almost 4 o'clock, they might miss out on some of those opportunities.
We're talking about schoolwork. We're talking about homework. We're talking about extracurriculars. We're talking about jobs at the end of the day. And then how much homework is there on top of that and studying? It's a lot for a student. So this junior was basically saying that, no, like, that's really not what she wants, because she's trying to get a job to pay for higher education.
Right.
Robin says, why poke the bear on start times? Kids are not more resilient in the morning. I know, I watch middle schoolers fall asleep in 7th grade. Kelly says, but what about the people and parents in sports and have jobs? I wouldn't be home until 10 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a stressful time. And I remember waking up super early, being groggy and tired, but somehow the kids get it done. I feel they have such long days. So if they don't start until, what is it, 8:50,
Hmm.
and then they end at 3:40, are they missing out on these opportunities? And a lot of the students we spoke with say, it's just going to hold us back. But then other students are like, I need that sleep in the morning.
Right.
It'll help me do better. But then are they actually going to sleep more, or will they go to bed later?
Well, and so to your point, Felice, saying there's so much more pressure on these kids these days, but Diane, the kids need to go to bed at a decent hour. My niece is a sophomore and stays up crazy hours, takes some responsibility. Though MB is kind of weighing in here saying the student was the only one talking about practical issues. Sherry says it has to do with the bus drivers.
It's a big deal too.
Connie wondering, what about sports when you're playing against another school that doesn't have these later start times? Where does that push that start time for after school sports come in?
Great question. Because Williamsville would be one of the only ones to push back. Or they would be one of the first ones to make this move. So I guess there would be some huge schedule changes. And if this does pass, so they have to vote on it, there's accepting feedback until Friday. If this does pass, it'd start next school year. So they would have to get going and figuring out some math and some schedules.
Zeke says, make people, kids, adults, parents, more accountable, be more responsible to go to bed on time. Though Howard has a good point too. What about school employees working later and childcare and all that goes along with the time change? In Buffalo, within the last 2 years or so, they changed start times because of the issue that they were having with bus drivers. So, there was a little bit of back and forth with the union. They finally came to an agreement because these teachers didn't necessarily want to be working that much later either.
Right.
And so, to Howard's point, that's a great question.
And then Kim said, changes in school times is good. Change is good.
Sarah, the wondering, is there a middle ground here? It seems like some kids start super early, like 7:15, but this example is almost 9 a.m. What about someplace in the middle? Great question.
Good point.
Weigh in on the Williamsville website, Sarah. That might be a great idea.
Kelly
Tracy,
chiming in.
go ahead.
Kelly says, my youngest is 18, goes to school full-time on the bowling team, works a full-time job. So, I mean, when you have all this stuff lined up, and if you're a junior and you're preparing for senior year and then everything switches up, then you've got to completely start from scratch.
She's also, Markey, kind of doubling down here on that point. It's on the parents to get their children to sleep. We are all guilty of getting trapped by our devices in beds. We live in a generation with iPad kids. Reduce screen time, get more sleep. Okay, Joyce, we'll leave you with a smile. How's that?
I like that.
Excuse me. She's good. She's really good.
Well, she
She's
just
doing
had a birthday. She's got the little one. She's got Bandit helping her out.
I was just talking to her this morning, and it's funny because when you're on this kind of a schedule, and if you are up early with us, you work overnights, or you're a first or third shifter, how different those schedules are. So Katie is still essentially working our
normal
shift,
schedule.
right? We're on at, we're up at 3:00 in the morning, and as I mean, she was like the first person I talked to before I even spoke to my husband.
Exactly. First voice in the morning.
Literally.
Oh, wait, you start your day. So she's still on the schedule.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's busy, probably busier, dealing with a little baby, but she's doing well.
You know what's so weird? And I have said this before, and I said this to her today. I'm like, or the other day, I'm like, I cannot believe that you are like a mom. I've known Katie for half of my adult life. I just saw a picture from her birthday 10 years ago when she turned 30, and we were out. it was just two babies, hanging out,
taking on the streets,
doing a beer tour.
When we walk into work every morning, there's a little screen with faces, and our faces kind of pop up. When I walked in, it was Katie's face this morning, and I was like, oh, look at Katie before she was a mom.
Right.
She's a mom. You're so different now.
Who are you? Totally different. Zeke says, let's talk about fashion for 2 seconds. That jacket is cool, bro. Thank you. Give me some knuckles. Love that for us. My mom calls it my pimp suit. But I like it. I think cranberry is kind of cool. I love maroon. One of my favorite colors.
And Aaron, we're almost matching. He has a similar type suit.
Our weather daddy. Yes. Thanks, Felice. Yes.
Hype him up. Hype him up today.
Keep going. Give me more. Give me more.
He never leaves us without. He always eats.
I also went to the gym for the first time in months yesterday, so I'm feeling a little bit less huge, not
great.
Skinny.
You've never once looked big in your entire life.
But I feel it. Have a great day.
Felicia
bro.
loves my hair. We're not gonna
Yes, you look good, girl.
Thanks, guys. Look at us. We started with some technical difficulties and now we're ending on a positive note.
Here we are.
We're cute and we're having a good day.
Bye-bye.